Welcome to the Neuroperformance Podcast with your host, Andy Murphy. Join us as we delve into the advanced high-performance tactics he uses with his elite clientele across the globe. Let's unlock a whole new world of business potential together.
Hey, this is Yuri Elkaim, and I am on Andy Murphy's podcast.
Okay, everybody, so you've had my awesome intro, and you know I'm especially pumped for today's guest. I really am. I'm going to dig into this guy's head. He's a veteran in this industry and a wealth of knowledge. And you know all about him. I've already explained who he is. But Mr. Yuri, how are you, sir?
I'm awesome, Andy. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. Looking at a city view. We got some ocean behind and hanging out in Panama, mate. So
nice, man. Life's good.
That's good. Well, how are you over there? Because you're about to head into that lovely winter over in Canada, right?
Yeah, it's getting nippy. We had to close the pool, unfortunately. I was using it as a temporary cold plunge, but now it's getting to that point where we had to close it. So yeah, it's getting to that point of the season where it's like, all right, it's starting to get pretty chilly, but it's all good.
Yeah, you embrace it, and that's what we'll talk about, some mindset stuff, but that was why I think what I love, because we hung out a month ago. It was only like a month or so ago, right?
I know. Yeah.
And
it's
it was
crazy.
What I loved about it, mate, was I've obviously we've been connected for for years around in the space, but I got to hang out with you, and that was beautiful for me. It was in so many ways, because it's always interesting, and you'll agree with this, and we'll talk about the industry in general, but there's so many people in the online space, and then they have such this persona. They create such an identity for themselves, and it's this beautiful, shiny, like the roses shine off them, and then you meet them, and you go, wow, that's how good you are at marketing, hey? Because that's not even you. And you're so boring, right? But I met you, buddy, of course, and you're you. In every capacity, this calm, collective, stoic, hyper-intelligent, hearted, good guy. And
Thanks, dude.
No, of course, mate. I tell the truth. And what was amazing was we were at your live event, which is Healthpreneur Live, right? And I think everyone really, really loved it. I think it was a good vibe there. Everyone was happy, man. It was like a party for 2 days.
Well, that's the way we do it, right? Like, we hadn't done the event for 4 years because of COVID and lockdowns. So it's the first time we were back. We did the event 3 times, 3 years in a row, and then 4 years off.
Wow.
And so this is the first time back. And I was like, do I want to do this moving forward? Like, I got complacent of just doing everything on Zoom, and I was like, but in the first day, right away, I probably had 50 people come up to me and like, thank you so much for doing this. I was like, we haven't even started. But it was like, there was just such a need, and I felt very emotionally overwhelmed for the whole weekend, which is not something I have really felt before in that same capacity. So it was almost like there was a part of me that was coming into the event hesitant about, all right, after this event, I don't know if I want to do it anymore because it's a huge undertaking.
Sure.
Right away, I was like, no, we're doing this every year again, because it's very fulfilling for me to connect with all of our clients and people in our space and bring our team together and for us to hang out. And like, that's hard to replicate online.
Yes.
And it's something I love doing. It's something I've enjoyed doing since I was young. I mean, I had an event planning company when I was in university. And I was like, well, there's probably a reason I did that. Like, I enjoy bringing people together to some degree. So
that's awesome.
It was really special. Yeah.
So you're a master at putting these events together for a start, man. Because it's not easy, dude. It's not easy.
No, it's not. Like, we've all been to events, and the mistake I made when I came online in 2006. So I did everything by myself. I didn't go to events. I didn't hang out with anyone. I hid behind my computer. And that didn't work. So I was broke for 3 years. And then in 2010, I said, let me start going to some events. Let me do the opposite of what I've been doing. Okay. So if I've been sitting at home, let me not do that. And I didn't have the money to do it, but I said, screw it. I'm going to throw it on my visa and just figure it out. And I went to 3 or 4 live events at the beginning of 2010, and they changed my life. Like I met so many amazing people in our space, hired my first coach who I met at one of those events. And from that point forward, I had continually invested in coaching programs, live events, mentorships, masterminds. And it was, I mean, it's the only, I think one of the only reasons that I'm still here is like I've invested so much in my own growth and put myself in those scenarios. But in that journey, I'd been at events that were really amazing and other events where I'm like, I don't really want to do that again. Like sitting in a room for 3 days, 12 hours a day, just being fire hosed with all sorts of different types of information, some of it conflicting, leaving more confused and overwhelmed than when I got there. And I wanted to create something that was valuable, but also really focus more on connection and community than the content. And that was always like the ethos of Healthpreneur Live. And I think we did a really good job at doing that. So I was, just to go back to your comments about like putting on these events in a really nice way. Thank you. And I was very intentional when we did our first event in 2017 about like, here's the level of detail here. Like we're gonna have 45-minute breaks and here's why. Here's what I want to create during that space. So I want to create more space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sure. So we have this like philosophy that goes back almost 7 years now. And this year's event, I told the team, I'm like, I want nothing to do with organizing this event. I want to show up and that's it. And that's what happens. But it was nice because we had a framework for what the event was supposed to be and feel like. And so there was no surprises. And it was really just nice to see or not having to be involved in any of it. Like I was just like, I'll show up and I have no clue what's going on. Let's just do this. So it was great.
And I said that to you at the time. I was like, you said that I don't even know what's happening. I just know I set the system. I've got the most best team ever, and they put it together and you showed up. And I was like, but that shows you, mate. That shows you having the ability to hire the right team and nurture the right team. Do you think that's like a massive, like, whether it's a learning curve, an error, it's wisdom, but do you feel that's where so many people in the online space go wrong? They try to do it themselves, or they just hire out of desperation, or what's the takeaways with that?
I mean, I was telling my team yesterday, like, I'm very grateful for them. Like I had a couple days ago, I was like, I'm going to call it a day. I just had one of those days where I was just going to like throw in the towel. Yeah. Like, I really don't feel like doing this anymore. And I don't have those days very often, but I did on Sunday. And I was like, and I just shared that with my team yesterday. And I said, I'm like, guys, like, I'm very, very grateful for you guys because I had a bad day on Sunday and no one was for the worse off for it. Right. None of our clients were affected. Our business wasn't affected. If I was a one-person show and I have a bad day or a bad week, the whole business crumbles. So I'm very, very blessed to have a great team. And also we have certain people on our team that have been very instrumental in the hiring process. So we have a very rigorous hiring process. Gotcha. And like everyone we hire, they're like, I have never been through this type of process ever. And some of them are coming from really big companies. And we like run them through the gauntlets. And the reason for that is because you never really know how someone's going to be on your team, culture-wise, performance-wise, until they're in the role. And we try to get as much of that or a sense of that as much as possible before we hire them, because although we'll still never know until they're hired, we want to make the best possible decision possible because it's such a huge investment, right? To spend the time onboarding, training, paying someone. And so I think the mistake I made back in the day in my first business was I hired the first person because I was too impatient. So I'm like, yeah, let's just go. And then I would leave them on the team for too long because I was afraid to have the hard conversation. And then looking back, I'm like, this person's been on the team for 3 years too long. That's my fault.
Wow.
So it's been a learning curve over time. I'm not necessarily, my genetic gift is not hiring people, but I love building and leading teams. So when I played soccer, I was usually the captain of my team. Okay. And I loved rallying the troops around a common goal. It's the same thing I do now in business. And I just, it's something I get a lot of joy from. Some people don't want to have a company with a lot of people. We have about 30 team members right now. Wow. And for me, I get a lot of joy out of that. And I accept the challenges that come with that. I realize that most of our problems are going to be people problems for sure, but they're also our biggest asset. And so I look at that as a really great challenge to take on and to give people meaningful employment that is not just like what they make, but what they're doing in this world and who they're becoming is very, very fulfilling for me. And it permeates through the whole team and the whole culture. Like our clients feel it.
Yes.
And it's really, we've built something very special. And sometimes I take that for granted because I'm like, oh, I think like, aren't like most remote teams like this? And it's like, no, not even close. So yeah, I think it's one of our secret, like our secret powers, and we still have a lot of work to do. So
forever, man. But I felt that in that event, and I can see it, right? I can see it through your company, and that's awesome. So let's rewind the clock in your brain, mate, because with Healthpreneur, there must have been that moment, because as an entrepreneur, that's what we live on. We live on this ideas. It's like we're the mad scientists of the world, and we just have an idea, and then we go, yeah, let's do that, right? Well, where the heck does that come from? So do you remember the first time that you went, I'm going to do this? And it's this name. Was there a moment where you were at a place? Did you say something to yourself? Were you around certain people? Where did it birth from?
So my first company online was a health and fitness business, helping the general public get healthy and so forth.
Right.
And after doing that for 13 years, and after many years of failure, eventually built it very successfully. A lot of people in our space were asking me for advice. Like, hey man, like, can I jump on Skype with you or Zoom and just kind of pick your brain? And I was like, sure. And this happened over and over and over again in the space of like one summer. It was like 20 people. And I'm talking like, New York Times bestselling authors, big influencers in our space.
Oh, sure.
And I thought to myself, okay, if I don't do something with, like, I'm getting a message here from the universe, like something's going on here that I should really clue into. I think there's a big gap in our marketplace where there's a lot of amazing health professionals who've dropped a tremendous amount of money on school and they have technical expertise, but they have zero business skill.
Sure.
Now I've had to learn that over time. So what if I were to bridge the gap? And that's kind of where the seed was planted. This is back in 2015-ish, 2016. But I spent the next year like in my own head, dealing with my own shit around imposter syndrome, because I was like this health and fitness guy. I had lost my hair when I was 17. That's what got me into health in the first place. Right. So I was this health and fitness guy, and now I'm going to become this business and marketing guy. And I thought to myself for a whole year, what are people going to think about me? What are they going to say? And it was just this nonsense, like nonstop internal bullshit.
Right.
So it took me a year. And then what I actually started with was a project that I called the Smarter Marketer Project. And it actually started off as a podcast, and I wanted to interview other business owners and so forth. And there was a moment, I did that for about a year. So I was still running my business, the previous one. And then I started this podcast where I was kind of dipping my toe into the world of entrepreneurship, kind of getting that message out. And then I was actually at a spa with my wife, and I'm sitting, we're going like cold plunge to hot tub type of thing, back and forth. And I'm sitting in the hot tub, and I thought to myself, because I had the name Healthpreneur from somewhere, I don't even know where it came from.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, why would I build a business called the Smarter Marketer Project? But that's just a horrible name. Healthpreneur is a brand. And so right there, I made the decision, Healthpreneur. We got the registered trademark for it globally. And so that's kind of where, so that would have been 2017-ish at this time.
Okay.
And I just said, like, thank God I made that decision, because it's a way better name than Smarter Marketer Project.
And there's a lot of marketers out there, you know what I mean? We'll get into that in a second, because you've been in the industry for so long. I'm not sure if I was on that podcast, mate, back then. You
actually were. Yeah, dude, you were. Yeah.
That's wild in itself, right? That's wild.
Yeah.
And that's funny. It's so... And we're going to go down this path, mate. We're going to go down this path. That's why I hesitate, because I've been in the industry a long time. You've been in the industry epically long time. And this industry's changed. It's changed over the past maybe 6 years. something like that. It's radically changed. It's like marketers came along and decided to teach people how to market. You know what I mean? And and what I've found, especially in the coaching space, and you obviously you're coaching and everything, but what I've found is people have become really, really talented at creating something that somebody thinks they want. And then they charge epically high prices, and then they get their money, and then the clients come in who are very vulnerable. They're in a place that they really are investing and believing in that person. They're in a place that they want change, they want transition, they're giving it everything they've got. And then some sketchy marketer comes along, takes their money, and then just deepens the hole that they're in. And it breaks my heart, man. It breaks my heart. And that's why I wanted you on the show. That's why I love what you do, because you're one of the good guys. And it's like, but what have you seen in the industry? I've pitched this so many times, and people are probably sick of me saying this because it drives me crazy, but you must have seen something like that, right?
It's unfortunate. I mean, like, with that said, there are a lot of people doing good stuff in this space.
Yes,
right?
yes,
like,
there are. Yes, there
sure.
are.
But it's like with anything, when you have an industry where there's low barrier to entry, you get a lot of garbage, right? Anyone can call themselves a coach. Like, you don't need to spend $300,000 to become a coach. Like, you can just call yourself a coach. Some people get certified, but it doesn't matter. So I think that's part of the problem, because you don't hear too many people talk about the fact that they got burned by their neurosurgeon, right? Like, if you're a neurosurgeon, you're one of the best in the world, and most neurosurgeons are all the best. Like, it's not like that guy was horrible and this guy's amazing. It's just, there's such a high barrier to entry that there's just a smaller amount of them. So because the coaching space in general, and by the way, I think coaching is the best profession on the planet, because it's how you create transformation in other people. It's just incredible.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, there are many people who think that the grass is greener on the other side. What I mean by that is they have expertise, let's say in health. Okay. And then they start thinking, oh, I've dealt with resistance on the phone with people who can't afford my services. Therefore, I'm going to go work with entrepreneurs. What? Like, so sorry, you're a health expert. I'm just using them as an example because I've had too many conversations with gym guys, fitness guys who are 18 years old. And they're like, hey, man, I help guys build their fitness business online to multiple six figures. I'm like, wicked, dude. How have you done that with your business? They're like, oh, I actually haven't done it, but I think it's a really viable market. I'm like, you should be, I'm not going to say what I'm going to say, but that nonsense is the problem. Is anyone can have one client enrolled, one good month, one little home run, and all of a sudden they think they're a business guru. Now, the challenge, to kind of add more fuel to the fire here, is that every fourth post on social media is a sponsored ad. And if social media is showing you what you're interested in, you're only seeing stuff related to entrepreneurship, building your business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as an example, I have an extension called Kill Newsfeed on Chrome. So I don't actually see my Facebook feed, which is amazing. But the other week, I just decided to go in there and have a look just to see what's going on. And I scrolled for like 45 minutes. And I used it as a learning activity, because I'm like, let me just see what everyone's advertising. And it was crazy. I must have come across 50 different offers around, I'll help you get clients, I'll help you build your coaching business. And if I don't fill your calendar, you don't pay a single penny. Yes. Now, the problem is that when you see that over and over and over and over again, number one, you become immune to it, like banner blindness. Second thing that happens is some people obviously do business with those types of businesses, and either they're shit and they're not really integral in what they're putting out there, or the client just didn't do the work, whatever, but they don't get the results that they want. And therefore they start blaming, oh, you're another one of those. I did something like that in the past and it was a total scam, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the biggest objection that we face on a daily basis is this huge amount of baggage that people are dragging through their life. I got burned before. I got scammed before. And when you build a brand, like our brand, we want to build a brand that extends beyond my lifetime. This Healthpreneur will be around for hundreds of years, but no one cares about that because they think we're the same as the random dude who just set up shop last month. He has a good weekend. There's no one in our space who's been around since 2005, like in the health space. Like I'm the only person who's been around that long and who has the track record that I have.
Yes.
Now I have other friends in the space who've done amazing work and they've done other stuff in similar verticals. Sure. But it's really, really important, I think, in today's day and age, at least for me, to be I'm not doing this as a ploy. This has been something I've done since I started, was just being myself, just being honest, authentic, real. I don't tell people I'm going to help you fill your calendar and help you make $1 million tomorrow. I tell people most people don't succeed because they don't have what it takes. They don't really want what they want, or they're not willing to do the work. So if that's you, don't pass go, don't collect $200. But if you know you have what it takes, if you're confident in your ability, you have a big desire to help people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you understand that anything great is hard, keep going, right? That's the message I share over and over and over again. And obviously in our marketing, there's, in our advertising, sometimes it can be a little bit more appealing than just saying like, this is impossible. But I think one of the biggest things that people appreciate about like the message I just shared, and this even goes back to my previous business, was the fact that they're just like, there's something about you that's very raw and authentic. And it's the same, whether it was my health and fitness business or with Healthpreneur. Like who I am on camera here is exactly who I am in person. I drop F-bombs sometimes on camera. I swear sometimes in person. I don't bullshit. I tell people straight up how it is. And some people don't like that. And I'm like, amazing, because I don't like you. Or like, whatever. You go where you want to go. I want to go where I want to go. And I want my people to come with me. You can go somewhere else.
Exactly.
So like, I just think there's just like people teaching shit they personally haven't mastered is criminal. To me, it's criminal. I would never dream of doing that. The only reason I started Healthpreneur was because I had built a multiple 7-figure business, and a lot of people started asking me for like what I was doing. Even with our clients, we never roll anything out to our clients that we have personally not done. Like we spend 6 figures a month profitably in advertising. We only share with them what we do and what works. Exactly. We spent $225,000 earlier this year testing for 3 months a new variation of the funnel that we help our clients with. And after $225,000 in ad spend, I was not satisfied with the results, and therefore I will never recommend it to our clients. That's how we roll. I'm like, so our clients have confidence that we have their back and we're taking arrows instead of them taking the arrows. And we actually give a shit. And I think eventually that comes to the top of the marketplace.
I think it does. And it comes to the top of the marketplace, and it also ripples down through the marketplace, you know? And that's the thing, because it shows that people, oh, you're not a fly by night thing, because you're right. There's everyone. It's like, how many messages have you got in your DMs? Right. And it's all from the Filipinos, and it's all like people with agencies like teaching you how to do this. I'll fill your calendar in the next 90 days with 15 clients. Yeah. It's like, well, that's a lot of people doing this, mate. Where are you getting these clients from?
Yeah, I know.
You know?
And it's tricky because you get clumped into the mix with everyone else. Yes. Right? So if you have some random who read Hormozi's book, which is, by the way, amazing. I think Alex is awesome. But I've noticed since that book has come out, there's been a lot more of those offers, right? Which is great. I mean, like, a better offer, whatever, but you got to be able to back it up. And I think it's very challenging when it's challenging, but it's also very easy to stand out as better, right? People can sniff bullshit fairly well. And I think maybe on the surface, the offer looks cool, but when you actually like have a conversation with someone and they have no clue what they're talking about, it's pretty easy to pick up on that. And I think the one thing that I have, I think going for our brand is the fact that our vision is so far into the future.
Yes.
Like I'm not doing stuff to make money tomorrow. I'm doing stuff to ensure that our business is the Coca-Cola of health in 100 years from now.
That's awesome.
Most people are just not even thinking on that time horizon, which is why we'll crush them, right?
Yeah, and it is. And you mentioned something beautiful there, the word, the future, right? How do you see this all going? Because something I loved about your presentation up there was that you started to, I'm not going to go into details, but you started to talk about the systems and the people that you've brought on to work out this AI thing, right?
Yeah.
And do you see that the future, or is it just a fad, or is it like, what do you see the future of this next 10 years of this industry?
I mean, AI is here to stay. I mean, AI is here like the sun is here. It's not going away. It's only, and it's honestly, it's in its infancy. It is so, we're going to look back on AI in 2 years from now and be like, oh my God, do you remember the first version of ChatGPT? That was so friggin', like, that was like Atari. Like Moore's Law, right? Technology changes exponentially every 18 months. So what's happening is the speed of change of our worlds, which is now as a result of technology, has changed so fast.
Yes.
And it continues to change even more quickly, because when we were growing up, we went through the 80s, right? So we went through television, cartoons,
right,
8-track, CD, we saw like cassette tape, MP3 player. We saw the whole thing. Like my kids, they're like, they don't even know what a phone tethered into a wall is. Right? They only know iPhone, iPad, whatever.
Yeah.
So AI is I mean, it's going to be a big deal. Whether that's good for us humans or not, I think people who are very good at what they do are going to be able to still use AI in a way that is very advantageous to them.
Sure.
I think people that don't know how to use it will be replaced by people who do know how to use it. Like, as an example, if you're looking to get words written, like copywriting, you can use ChatGPT, you can use HARPA AI, you can use all sorts of tools. But if fundamentally you don't understand what good writing looks like, you will always be at a disadvantage. Versus someone like myself or a more advanced copywriter, they can use that to speed their workflow and get 10 times done in a tenth of the time. That becomes a weapon for good.
Yes.
So I think, again, like, there's so much that's going to evolve with AI, but I think that's going to be a real necessity is people just skilling up. McDonald's is fully automated. There's a location in Texas that is fully automated. People are going to lose their jobs because they don't have the skills to maintain their jobs. Fucking skill up, right? Don't go pick it outside and go on strike. You're not good enough. You don't have the skill set. If you're checking in vegetables at a grocery store and bagging them and you're 60 years old, I'm sorry. Like, I hope you do that. Like, whatever you can do to skill up, because all of those types of jobs are going to be gone. And it's like, I think the opportunity here, and I think it comes down to each one of us as individuals to take full ownership and responsibility for our life.
Yes.
To just get better, to skill up, to do what we can to learn, to not be so resistant to change, because 88% of Fortune 500 companies that existed in 1965 no longer exist.
Is that right? Is that right? 88%?
88% of them. They don't exist because they failed to evolve or they were acquired, right? And, you know, you look at Blockbuster, Netflix went to Blockbuster in their early days and they said, just buy us out, guys. And Blockbuster is like, well, what do you guys want? They're like, I don't know, like 50 million. And they laughed them out of the building, right? And now who's laughing? So for me, I've always been one who's been a little bit late to the party. Like, social media was, I resisted that for a long time. I'm not making that same mistake with AI, because it's like a tidal wave that's going to crush us if we're not riding it. Like, it's going to happen. With that said, I think there's a huge opportunity to be even more human in your business. What I mean by that is, in times of high tech, there's increased need for high touch. So whether it's in-person events, doesn't matter, but I think there's an element of service and humanness that people are going to crave, and they're going to sense that this is all automation or fake, and they'll know if it's real. And I think that becomes a very big competitive advantage.
I think that too, mate. And I agree with you. And it's like, it's personal responsibility to always understand that there's nothing certain in the world, and you have to keep growing and expanding in any capacity in your life, in your business. You have to get the latest tools. It just has to happen. You have to grow into that full identity version of you. And it's also, I feel that too, right? AI, it's coming fast, but I don't know if it's coming as fast as some people are predicting it's coming. right? In some ways, right? It's like general AI and all the rest. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to integrate it fully into society. But the other side of it is, it's like, I really feel that, like, I remember when digital books came out and everyone was talking about, that's the end of books. Well, no, books sell even more because audio came out. Tactile books are still selling. Books are books, right? People want to consume. So having that oxytocin connection with people, even if it's face-to-face or through things like this, I think is very viable. And this is why I wanted you on the show. One, I love your thinking. But it's secondly, I haven't done interviews in ages. And I've just been talking, rabbiting on me, breaking down other things, But then it's like, and I got bored with the podcast because I've done it for so long. And it's like, it doesn't give me the ROI that it used to give me with lead generation. And it's okay, because I've moved on from all of that. I don't need it the same way anymore. But then something hit me a few months ago, and it's not about me. It's about bringing people like you on who can, and spreading the words of awesomeness across everybody so people get the human connection. This is what podcasts are about. This is what the live events are about. This is what they're about. It's not about me. It's about the audience. And when that got into my head again a couple of months ago, I'm like, okay, we need to start cranking out interviews again. So I love that, Yuri. I love what your vision is, man. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions in a minute because I'm going to dive into your unconscious mind. And I know we've got a few more minutes, and then we got to jump because you're a busy man. But do you feel, because what you do is you help health practitioners like doctors move into the online space, right? Yeah. And basically transition their practice into virtual world, which is probably quite needed, right? Because who the hell wants to go and sit in a doctor's if you don't have to for everything, right? My question is this: do you think that you can teach drive? Do you think that you can teach like the discipline? Do you think that this game is for everybody?
Yeah, it's a good question. So do I think I can teach drive? No, but I can probably create circumstances that will increase someone's drive. So I'll just use this as an example. It's not the nicest one, but let's say that you have kids, which you don't, obviously, that I'm aware of. And I said, Andy, I don't think you really want what you want badly enough. It's a 7 out of 10. And then one day I came and kidnapped your kids. And I said, in order to get the kids back, I need you to do the thing that you've been slacking on. All of a sudden, you're going to do whatever it takes. So I've created a circumstance to increase motivation or drive. And I think the problem with most people in North America, let's call it the Western world, is that our lives are okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a very dangerous place to live. I think it's a really, really sad place to live, where you have just enough to get by. It's not great, but it's not enough to really get you out of your comfort zone to do whatever it takes. Because the pain of change is greater than the pain of your current situation. When I was in Brazil, when I was 17, I was down there playing soccer with Sao Paulo FC. And I remember going to practice with these guys who are on the verge of going to the pro team. And they would say, it's like, for us, it's futebol or the favelas, right? So it's soccer or the slums. It was this or that. There was no other alternative. In the Western world, most of us have option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it doesn't work out, it's all good. I can get a credit line, whatever. I think more of us have to put ourselves in situations that require us to fully commit and burn the ships.
Beautiful.
You know, Hernan Cortez, when he had left Cuba and he had come to Florida, I believe. He burned all of his army ships.
Right.
He didn't want to give them a way out. And yeah, that's extreme, but the world wasn't built on people who are mediocre and average and okay. It was built by crazies. Like, to some degree, not everyone is okay with that. And that's also why not everyone is a high performer creating greatness. Right. If you look at anyone who's great, the Muhammad Alis, the Lewis Hamiltons, the David Beckhams, the Steve Jobs, they're all fucking crazy to some level. They're right. OCD, they're obsessive, they're consumed by what they do. Not everyone's okay with that. but don't expect their results without that type of obsession. Right. And I think that's the big thing is everyone says they want stuff, but don't like either do what you got to do to get there or stop talking about it. So I think we can create drive, but it's situational.
I agree.
So
no, that's a beautiful, you answered it thoroughly and completely, mate. And I agree with you. And I wanted to just bring that point up before we ask you these questions and then wrap up, because you've got to want this, because this game is brutal. It's brutal. You have a good year, cool. That doesn't mean you're going to have a good next good one. It doesn't work like that, man. And everything changes, and we could get hit by a meteorite. And it's like, I just know that like you got the same like passion as me for just life. And it's like, I want to get to the end of my fucking life and look back and know that I've just done everything. I've just done everything I can. It doesn't mean it worked, but I just want to give it everything I can while I'm here. Because if I died tomorrow, I know I've done my best today. And I know that's through you 100%. You do your best. I hear glimpses because of Steph and all the rest of it and your crazy genius plans. And I'm like, I love it. So let's wrap this up. What I want to know, as I always do this on the podcast, well, with the people that I like, I want to know what's in your brain. I want to know what's automatically playing in your unconscious mind. So I'm going to ask you 3 words. And I want to know what the first thought and feeling is that pops up. So the first thought, not the right one, but the first thought and feeling. And of course, you know all about this stuff. So the first one is business. What's the first thought and feeling that pops up when I say the word business?
So joy, and feeling would be excitement.
That's awesome. That's why it's working.
/ pressure.
/ pressure. Yeah, but pressure makes you drive forwards, right? So what about money? Most people's biggest hang up when growing a business, right? But what's your first thought, first feeling that pops up when I say the word money?
Freedom, and feeling is I'm not even sure if I'm gonna give you the right answer here, but definitely the word is freedom, and the feeling around money. I don't even know if abundance is the right word, but abundance, opportunity. I'm not even sure if I'm describing that properly, but
something like that. Okay. The last one is the future. The future. What's the first thoughts and feeling that comes up when you think of the future?
Better and bigger than the past, and brighter.
Brighter.
Like I think there's a lot of there's 2 ways of looking at life. Like the world is coming to an end. There's people who are out to kill us all. And that might be true. I choose to see life a little bit differently. I mean, that could be true. But I also know that Viktor Frankl, who lived during Auschwitz, chose to look at things a bit differently as well. Right. So even if globally we're in the quote unquote Auschwitz, which is not even a close comparison, so whatever, but I call it delusional optimism. I would rather live in my own bubble of positivity and believe that the world is a great place, because that's how I want to show up in life. That's how I want to wake up in the world. I want to wake up in the morning knowing that I can do something to make a dent in this world. And even if everything is determined ahead of time and it's, fate, determinism, whatever, I don't even care. I feel I have control over my life, and I feel like I live in a world that is absolutely beautiful, and that, yes, there's a lot of shit going on, but I don't need to partake in that, right? Yeah. And that's something I've always believed in from very early on.
I love it, mate. I love it. That's a great place to wrap up. So I'm going to put links everywhere, but where, what's the best place people can connect with you? Because they're going to want to.
Best place, if they want to connect, Instagram, I'm at Healthpreneur. Okay. And if you're listening to podcasts, you can check out our Healthpreneur show on iTunes, Spotify, all those places. So.
Boom. Done. Thank you, brother. That's been awesome. And I'm excited to keep connecting with you, my man.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, Andy.
That's all for this episode of the Neuro-Performance Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to stay connected, rate, review, and visit andymurphy.online to take the next step towards unlocking your pure potential. See you next time.